let's talk something a little bit more divisive. That's the word, maybe a little bit more divisive. Hello, everybody. Glass Half Dead here, and today we're talking about conversions versus proxies. When are they okay, and what are they? So let's go over a conversion first. I suspect I have either just shown you or will show you later a little conversion that I worked on. Here we see a conversion. This is my autark model. Okay, now this is using the body of one kit, the head of another kit, the wings of another kit, and the arms of another kit, and smashing them all together and saying, hey, this is now an autark. Okay? The reason this is a conversion and not a proxy, even though I have never touched the autark, the official autark model, is because, firstly, it actually looks very, very similar to the autark model. It's obviously different, but it looks similar. Now, that's not actually a requirement for conversion. A conversion can either be taking the base model and changing that base model to look different, change its pose or its war gear, whatever, or taking another model, or models in this case, and making it look similar to the original model. Not necessarily in pose, though. However, this is a conversion and not a proxy because not only does it have the correct war gear, but it also looks distinctly different from every other model in my army. Therefore, no one can accuse me of proxying when I am definitely conversing. Also, this is all 100% Games Workshop material, so they can't argue on that front either. To clarify, this is a blaster pistol. It's a converted blaster pistol, but it's a blaster pistol. That is a power sword, and those are the wings, and those are the swooping hawk wings. So therefore, that is undeniably an autark mod. Now, let's have a look at another conversion. This is a very similar situation. We have the correct Avenger Shuriken catapult, and then we have bits of two other kits smashed together. Again, that is a conversion, not a proxy. Okay, let's now take a look at a proxy. So, one of the things that the Asuryani have are guardians, and those are fine. I've got plenty of guardians. There you go. That's a guardian on the guardian datasheet. No issues with that. I'm not going to proxy a guardian because I can get that kit easily. I don't think it looks terrible. Fine. Storm Guardians, however, are a very odd unit. So the Storm Guardian kit requires you to buy the Guardian kit and then an upgrade sprue that comes in fine cast from Forge World. No, Games Workshop Direct. Sorry, not Forge World. I don't really like it. Also, I feel it doesn't make you look distinct enough from a standard Guardian because you're using the base Guardian body and it's literally an arm swap. Oh, and there's a different head, but the head looks really similar. So I thought to myself, you know what, I want to really make this army my own. What can I use instead? And if you look through the rest of the Asuryani army from 40k now, so this is not a valid unit in Kill Team. But the war gear that the Storm Guardian needs is a Shuriken pistol, an Eldari blade, and plasma grenades. So, if you look through the Asuryani army, the Craft World Eldar army, as it's called, I think, you will notice that Striking Scorpions have that war gear. This is a proxy unit, because this isn't a Storm Guardian. Okay? Anybody that knows what a Striking Scorpion is and what a Storm Guardian is would never look at this and say, oh, that's a Storm Guardian. I'm okay with this. That's fine, because this has the exact war gear that the Storm Guardian needs. And that's the key to a good proxy model that people won't complain about. You want to make sure it has the correct war gear. This is indeed a chainsword, and that is indeed a Shuriken. Is it a Shuriken pistol? Is that what it's called? Yes, it is. I really like that as a proxy model. Obviously, there's no conversion there because I have not converted anything. Next step, again, Storm Guardians. One of the things they can do is that they can take, a Storm Guardian gunner can take a flamer or a fusion gun. So I could have taken this guy, you know, because I wanted to keep the Striking Scorpion look and given him a fusion gun. That would then be both a proxy and a conversion, weirdly. But no, I decided I was going to proxy. Because again, if we look at the Asuryani Craftworld Eldar army, we see that there is a unit that effectively is all fusion guns. Similar to how the Striking Scorpions are all chain blades and shuriken pistols. Fire Dragons are all fusion guns. Isn't that lucky? This is a bit weird now because I'm using a different model to represent the same unit, just with different war gear. However, I believe nobody would have an issue with that, because I've stayed true to the war gear. And that's the key with a good proxy, stick to the correct war gear. We are going to cover that in a moment though. Now, with Rangers, I went out and picked up a Ranger. That is the correct model. It's not a conversion. That is the correct model. However, before this order came in of Rangers, I had done something different. I already had, because obviously you can buy it in stores, an Eldrad model. I wanted to proxy an Eldrad model for a Ranger model. Now, I was only going to do it for 1 or 2 games before the Ranger model came in, and I wasn't doing it in a competitive scene. So, and nobody would have had any issues with it. My logic there was that a Ranger is, of course, a sniper, and Eldrad is a psyker, and he's holding out his hand like he's casting a psychic spell, and in my head, that's, you know, kind of like Cybolt. So, yeah, in my head, he was, it's like, sniping you with my Cybolt. So, there you go. I thought that worked. Thematically, as I only wanted to do it with a single model, because that was going to be my leader. It was going to be a Ranger leader model. And this guy is huge, so it made sense. Also, that's another thing when it comes to proxies. You want to get the size roughly the same or bigger. If I were to take, let's say, I want a Ranger to be my leader, and then proxied in a Grot who's half the size, then I wouldn't be overly surprised if my opponent was kind of like, really? So we're okay so far. Now, we've already mentioned this conversion. That is an official Dire Avenger model. That is a converted Dire Avenger model, but it's not a proxy. Still using 100% Games Workshop stuff. Looks almost identical. If you didn't know what a Dire Avenger looked like and I put that on the board, you know, or if you only had a rough idea, you wouldn't. You could easily say, oh, well, that's just a Dire Avenger with a cloak. Another note on using Eldrad here as a proxy for a Ranger. The other thing you want to keep in mind is just how different the model may look. So let's say I wanted to run 3 Dire Avengers and a Ranger, but I didn't have a Ranger model, so I was going to proxy in a 4th Dire Avenger. Now, this is not a converted one, this is just a normal Dire Avenger. Now, if you're only going to do that for 1 or 2 games and it's a casual environment, there's no real issues. However, it could be an issue if you always ran your 3 Dire Avengers and a Ranger around like that. It's like, and then they move around. It's like, well, hold on, who's the leader? I obviously want to shoot the leader. Another key to proxying and conversions, but mainly proxying here, is making sure that the proxy model doesn't look too similar to other models you have. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if the guy that you chose to be a Ranger was painted differently. So even if he's the same model, looks identical, but he's painted in a different scheme, well, that's no issue because you can easily pick him out. There won't be any issues with, oh, wait, who am I trying to shoot? You're fine if that's what you do. Equally, I would actually say the same thing. So this is the converted Dire Avenger with cloak. So what if I wanted to run 4 Dire Avengers and a Ranger? But this guy is now both a proxy and a conversion. The weird thing here, guys, is that, okay, yes, the cloak is markedly different from the other Dire Avengers, and it will be significantly more so once these are painted. Obviously, they're all white at the moment. So I'd be okay with that. However, if I kept them all white and hadn't painted them, this is still really similar to these 4 models here. And if I was running them around like this, mix it up. Where are they? Okay, which one's the Ranger? I forgot. I can't remember. Yeah, it's that one. But look, it's all about, when it comes to proxy and conversion models, guys, it's all about making the proxy make sense and making sure that it's very easy to tell what it is. Now, I would say that since we're still, relatively speaking, in the early parts of Kill Team, proxy models are fine, guys. You don't need to chew somebody's head off just because they're proxying a model, especially if they're only proxying it for 1 or 2 games because they want to see how the list runs. I would never take any issues with somebody doing that. If they always had, the same team of, let's say, 10 guardsmen that all looked identical, and they were always grey, and they were always a different team, and even though they all had lasguns, 5 of them were Hormagaunts 1 week and 5 of them were Termagants, how do you tell them apart? Or it's not that I'd ever say anything to that player, it's that I'd start to, question his dedication somewhat, and see if I, maybe casually suggest, hey, in a positive way, hey, you're taking a while to get those painted up. What's up with that? Or, maybe they'd have a perfectly valid reason and say, I've only got 1 hour a week and I use it to play the game. And if I didn't use it to play the game, I genuinely wouldn't be able to play the game. And if I don't play the game, there's no reason to build up the miniatures in the correct army. It's like, well, yeah, okay. I get it. Let's talk something a little bit more divisive? That's the word, maybe. A little bit more divisive. So I think generally we can all agree that, in a non-competitive scene, you're just having some fun and somebody says, hey, I'm using this striking Scorpion, which has the correct war gear to supplement a Storm Guardian, and I'm using this Fire Dragon that has the correct war gear to supplement a Storm Guardian with a fusion gun. No one's going to take an issue with that, especially once they're painted. No one's going to take much of an issue with me wanting to use Eldrad as a Ranger, because he's a much bigger model, which means he's easier to hit, which therefore means it's easier to kill me. Remember that with proxies and conversions, guys. If you're unsure, make them slightly bigger than you think they should be. That way, nobody can claim that you are modeling through advantage. Okay? However, what if, and, okay. So the reason I'm bringing this up is partly because this is my view on it, my opinion. Also, partly I want to know your opinion on it, because I want to proxy an entire army. Now, I've heard this done elsewhere. For example, people wanting to proxy Genestealer cults. They want to take a Skaven army from Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, sorry, and actually proxy an entire Genestealer cults army as them. Now, I think that's pretty cool. I'd have no issues with that, and I'd congratulate them on their hobby achievements, especially if they went all out and didn't just use base Skaven models, but actually gave them guns. Top notch. I'd be all for them doing that. However, I want to, okay, bear with me, think it through, don't jump to a conclusion. I want to proxy a Thousand Suns list. And don't get me wrong, I could go out and buy a pack of Rubric Marines and a pack of Zangors and call it a day and have no issues. I bought the Wake the Dead box set. And thematically, I think it would be quite cool. And as I've mentioned, I'm trying to really get into a single team and really play them thematically and just really connect with them. And I think it would be fun to run Wraithguard as Rubric Marines, the Spirit Seer as the Aspiring Sorcerer, and then another Eldar model, probably Howling Banshees as the Zangors. What do you think about that, guys? Now, I, obviously, as I'm thinking of doing it, have managed to logic myself into a corner and say, yes, there's no issues with that. These would be on 40mm bases instead of 32s, so they're bigger than they need to be. So nobody can argue with that. And I think they're also taller. So they're bigger than they need to be. That guy's smaller. That might be an issue. I might put him on a 32mm base, just so that nobody can complain. Because he comes on a 25mm base, which I've already put him on, which is a little bit annoying, actually. Now, other issue is that they obviously only have... They have two weapon options. One are these guns. The other is... they don't show it here. One is a close combat option, and it's just an axe. I don't think it would be acceptable to have them all have the same guns and say, oh, well, that's a bolter, but that one there, that's a warp flame reaper cannon thing. Soul reaper cannon. That's not fair. So in some way, I would have to make them distinct if they had a special weapon. Logically, I should do that with the weapon itself, but you could also do that with a head swap, maybe, because the Wraithguard don't have other weapons. If I'm doing it from a conversion standpoint, I would just chop the weapon up and put something else there. I don't know what. You know, maybe some of the spare weapons I have from the heavy weapon platforms. I've used a star cannon, but maybe I want to throw in maybe the scatter laser from that. Could be, you know, cut up and put into their arms and say that's the Soul Reaper cannon. That could work. That could work. It would be a notably different weapon. And, you know, I could paint the head a different colour, maybe. Something like that. Or, another option that I'm slightly less okay with, but you've got to do what you've got to do. And that is to actually, somewhere on the model, on the gun or the wrist, actually glue on a magnet. Actually go out and buy a Rubric Marine kit. And paint up just the guns. And put a magnet on the gun. And so these guys would all just look normal as they are. And actually, when I want to swap their weapons around, just stick, you know, bolt gun on him, Soul Reaper cannon on him, warp flame on him, and just chop and change as I see fit. But then it might look a bit odd because they'd literally have two guns. What do you guys think about that? Do you think I'm overthinking it? Oh, keep in mind also, I'm thinking of doing this to potentially want to be able to play in a Games Workshop competitive tournament. Now, my local Games Workshop would never have an issue. They're fine. They're good with it. Warhammer World, when I went there, was super relaxed and laid back. I don't think they take an issue, but you never know, and I want to be on the safe side. And I do hear horror stories, mainly from the States for some reason. So I just want to make sure that these would be accepted. And I don't have a picture of Howling Banshees, but I can't really see people not being okay with that. If they're okay with Rubric Marines being proxied for the Wraithguard, then they'd definitely be okay with Zangors being proxied for Howling Banshees. So this is me kind of asking for your thoughts on proxies and conversions, guys. What do you think? Do you think I'd be okay with taking a proxied army? Or do you think somebody would look at it and say, hey man, that's really cheesy. Why are you doing that? You know, they're clearly Eldar. You should play an Eldar army. And if you want to proxy your Guardians for Wraithguard, that's fine. But you can't proxy them for Thousand Suns. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this little chat that I've had about the difference between a conversion or a proxy, and just how you can really put those into your own games and kind of maybe make a bit of a judgment call and say, hey, that's not really fair as a model to proxy for that, because you've done it every battle for the past 3 months and you haven't made any progress. Or look at somebody's conversion and say, well, actually, your conversion is one Guardian Defender to another Guardian Defender. They're identical, but one of them has whatever, is actually a Dire Avenger and blah, blah, blah. That would be a proxy, not a conversion, but stay with me, guys. So anyway, hope this has been a fun little chat. I think it's gone on for far too long, Or at least I've recorded far too much. But anyway, this is Glass Half Dead, hoping you've all had a great day and hoping you all continue to have a great day. Let me know what your thoughts are on anything I've said here. And Glass Half Dead, logging out.